All right, so are you ready to kick fossil fuels to the curb? Because I think we might just have a game changer on our hands. This JAS article from November 12th is all about artificial photosynthesis and, well, this time it's not just theory. It's a real breakthrough. We got to unpack this.
You know, what really grabbed my attention is this team in Japan. They've developed a hydrogel that produces hydrogen fuel. Get this, just using sunlight and water. It's like almost like we're trying to bottle the power of plants. And it can be way more efficient than anything we have now.
Okay, now I'm really interested. I know artificial photosynthesis has been a goal for scientists for a while now. But what makes this different from, those algae bioreactors you hear about all the time?
We got to remember, plants have had millions of years to perfect photosynthesis, right? We're trying to recreate that in a lab. It's not easy. But this hydrogel, this is exciting because it's a direct system, really elegant. Sunlight in, hydrogen fuel out, no crazy setups, no external energy needed.
All right, I'm all about keeping things simple. But how does this thing actually work? What even is a hydrogel?
Okay, imagine like a super sponge, right? It's this network of molecules that can hold a ton of water. But what's special here, they've embedded molecules that act like, well, tiny solar panels and catalysts. They got ruthenium complexes in there catching sunlight. And then platinum nanoparticles, those are like the orchestrators. They break down the water into hydrogen and oxygen.
Wow, hold on. So it's like we have this miniature factory powered by the sun, churning out clean fuel. That's pretty impressive. But, I've read about older attempts at artificial photosynthesis, and they kind of flopped. What was the problem with those? What was holding them back?
Yeah, the main roadblock was efficiency. Those older systems had this clumping issue. You see, the molecules would all bunch up, and then the whole process slowed way down. This hydrogel, though, it solves that problem. Everything stays spaced out, so the electron transfer is smooth. And that's key to splitting those water molecules.
This all sounds amazing, but you know me. I like to see the data. How much more efficient are we talking here?
Okay, this is where it gets really exciting. The lead researcher, Professor Okiyoshi, he said, by using a polymer network, we were able to prevent them from clumping together and achieved a quantum yield of 10%. Now, I know that might sound like a bunch of jargon, but let me tell you, 10% is huge in this field. We're talking a massive leap forward compared to what we could do before.
Okay, 10% quantum yield, got it. I'm adding that to my mental list of cool science facts. But let's make this real for a second. What does all this mean for, the average person? Someone who cares about clean energy but isn't a scientist.
Sure, so this hydrogel is still early stage, right? But the potential is massive. Imagine you go to the gas station and you're filling up your car with hydrogen that was made from nothing but sunlight and water. That's the goal. That's how we move away from fossil fuels towards a cleaner, more sustainable future.
Okay, sign me up for that future, for sure. But even with this breakthrough, I know it's not going to happen overnight. What are some of the challenges, the hurdles that these scientists still need to figure out?
Well, first, scaling up production is a big one. Right now, this is all happening in a lab. They need to figure out how to make this hydrogel on a massive scale, and they need to make sure it's tough enough for the real world. Like any new tech, there are always hurdles.
Right, scaling up, durability testing, what else?
Cost is always a factor, right? Some of the materials they're using in this hydrogel, especially the ruthenium, they aren't cheap. Finding more affordable alternatives without losing performance, that's going to be key.
So it sounds like it might be a while before I can trade in my old gas guzzler for a shiny new hydrogen car. But I'm feeling hopeful. So what's next on our deep dive agenda?
It's fascinating when you think about where this could all go. We've been talking about cars, but this hydrogel could impact way more than just transportation.
Okay, I'm ready. Paint me a picture of a hydrogen-powered world. What else could we use this stuff for?
The chemical industry is a big one. Like, they already use hydrogen for a lot of stuff. Yeah. Fertilizers, plastics. But most of that comes from fossil fuels right now. This hydrogel, though, clean source of hydrogen for all kinds of industrial processes.
So we're talking like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Less reliance on fossil fuels at every level. That's incredible.
Exactly. And you know how we were saying plants are like the ultimate energy factories? Well, scientists are trying to go even further with that idea.
Hold on, even better than this hydrogel. I'm all ears. Tell me more.
So they're looking at tweaking, modifying the ruthenium complexes in the hydrogel, not just to split water, but to grab carbon dioxide from the air.
Whoa, are you serious? Pulling CO2 right out of the atmosphere? Like what trees do?
That's exactly it. It's like we're talking about creating artificial trees, but imagine, potentially even more efficient, producing hydrogen fuel A&D, cleaning up the planet at the same time.
Okay, now that's some next level stuff. Are we in sci-fi territory here, or is this really possible?
Okay, so it's definitely still early research. But they've had some promising results. They've actually gotten these modified ruthenium complexes to bind CO2 and even convert it into useful stuff like formic acid.
So instead of just giving off oxygen, it's creating these valuable byproducts, and all while fighting climate change. Okay, my mind is officially blown.
It's pretty exciting stuff for sure. But we got to stay grounded. This tech is still in its early stages. There are definitely going to be some challenges along the way.
Okay, back to reality for a minute. What are the biggest hurdles they're up against?
Scaling up production is still a major one, like we talked about earlier. Got to figure out how to mass produce this hydrogel, but it's got to stay efficient.
Makes sense. What else?
And yeah, cost is still a factor, like before. Finding cheaper options for some of those materials, the ruthenium especially, that'll be crucial if we want to make this commercially viable.
So scalable, efficient, affordable, those are some pretty big boxes to check.
Definitely. But the potential payoff is huge, right? This hydrogel tech could really be a game changer, not just for clean energy, but for tackling climate change as a whole.
Yeah, it feels like we're at this point where science and the urgency of climate change are really coming together.
Absolutely. And you know what's really inspiring? We're finding these solutions by looking to nature for ideas. Remember those algae bioreactors you mentioned before?
Yeah. They're still being worked on, right?
Exactly. And there's so much more we can learn from nature. Like, have you ever thought about how geckos can climb walls?
It's like they laugh in the face of gravity. I've always wondered how they do that.
So their feet are covered in millions of these tiny hair-like structures. And those create this molecular attraction. It's called van der Waals forces. Basically, it lets them stick to almost anything.
Wait, are you saying scientists are trying to make gecko gloves so we can all climb walls?
Uh-huh. Not exactly. But they are working on gecko-inspired adhesives using the same idea. Imagine super strong adhesives that don't leave any residue. Bandages, robots, all kinds of stuff.
That would be amazing.
And it doesn't stop there. Engineers are looking at shark skin to make boats and planes more fuel efficient. Termite mounds are giving architects ideas for buildings that are naturally ventilated, temperature controlled.
Wow, so it's like nature already has a solution for everything.
Exactly. It's called biomimicry. And it's becoming a really big field. We can find all these innovative and sustainable solutions just by looking at how nature does things.
This is blowing my mind. It seems like the more we study nature, the more we realize how much we still don't know.
I know, right? And we've barely scratched the surface. There's a whole world of possibilities out there just waiting to be discovered. And used for good, hopefully.
I know, right? It really makes you wonder what other crazy cool stuff nature is hiding. I mean, we've been talking about geckos and sharks, but there's got to be so many other organisms out there with, like, superpowers we could learn from.
Absolutely. And, biomimicry, it's not just about, like, copying what we see in nature. It's about really understanding the principles behind it, millions of years of evolution that's led to these amazing solutions.
So it's like nature's been running this giant R&D lab, and we're finally starting to take notes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, take spider silk, for example. Stronger than steel by weight, but it's also super flexible. Scientists are studying its structure to try and develop new materials for, well, everything. Bulletproof vests, surgical sutures.
Wow, so even a spider web can teach us something. Makes you think twice about, just brushing them away.
Right. It definitely gives you a new perspective. And it's not just about materials either. We can also learn from, like, natural processes. For instance, have you ever noticed how lotus leaves always stay clean, even when they're in, like, muddy water?
Oh, yeah, now that you mention it, they always look spotless. How do they do that?
It's pretty cool, actually. So their surface has this microscopic texture that repels water droplets. They just bead up and roll right off, taking any dirt or debris with them. It's called the lotus effect.
That's so smart. So are we talking self-cleaning windows now? Clothes that never get dirty?
You got it. Researchers are already developing surfaces that do the same thing. They repel liquids, they resist stains, self-cleaning fabrics, paints, even solar panels that stay cleaner and work better.
This is incredible. It feels like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and the best part is, these bio-inspired solutions, they're usually more sustainable than what we've been doing. Nature's already figured out how to be efficient, using stuff that's readily available, renewable energy sources.
It's like we've been trying to reinvent the wheel this whole time, and the answers have been right in front of us in nature.
Exactly. Embracing biomimicry, that's how we create groundbreaking tech. And it's how we learn to live in harmony with the planet.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from that new hydrogel to all these amazing examples of biomimicry. What's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that nature is an incredible teacher. By observing and understanding and emulating nature, we can find solutions to some of our biggest challenges and create a more sustainable and innovative future.
Yeah, it's time we started paying attention to what nature's been trying to tell us all along. Who knows what other amazing discoveries are out there just waiting for us?
Absolutely. And remember, biomimicry, it's not just for scientists. It's something we can all do every day. Next time you're facing a problem, think about how nature might solve it. You might surprise yourself.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive thanks to this hydrogel breakthrough and to nature's creativity. Who knows? Maybe a cleaner, more sustainable future is closer than we think.
I hope so. And hey, the exploration doesn't end here. Keep learning, keep asking questions, keep looking to nature for inspiration. You never know what you'll find.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of artificial photosynthesis and biomimicry. Until next time, stay curious.